Welcome to the Pindown, your Detroit Pistons podcast. I'm your host, Wes Davenport from Motor City Hoops and Detroit Bad Boys.
And I'm Blake Silverman, writer for Detroit Bad Boys, covering everything Pistons, and news writer for Sports Illustrated.
And we're kind of on a weird recording schedule, guys. That's actually my bad. I really dropped the ball over this past weekend. Had some work stuff that I needed to get done, and then it all kind of like washed up on me. So we're recording here on a Tuesday evening, but we get the pleasure of recording pretty much right after that back-to-back series against the 76ers and then the Wizards. So let's just jump right into it. All right. So you got a win, a 3-point victory there against the Philadelphia 76ers, 111-108. And then a thrilling overtime win against the Wizards with some unlikely heroes, 137-135. Let's just start with that. Let's start with the 76ers game. What were some general takeaways that you had from that one? I mean, there's a million directions we could go.
Yeah, I mean, that Cade dunk in crunch time was just incredible. Like, I don't know.
Nasty.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. That's like one of the highlights of the year probably, and for it to come when it did is amazing. And then they go out the next night and have almost a more highlight-worthy, incredible win. Yes, it was against like the 1-10 now Wizards, but when you have so many injuries, so many players out, finding a way to win that game was incredible. And also just a ton of there were 5 guys in double figures against the 76ers, including Karis LeVert off the bench, who then sat against the Wizards. But another great game from Jalen Duren. He had 21 and 16. I think he had a 2010 double-double streak going. So I think he's just been awesome offensively, has been making a little bit of an impact as well. But if I have to stick with one thing from that Philly game, it's that Cade dunk. Like, that's going to be one that you play for a long time.
That Cade dunk, it was ridiculous. It's poetic. It was coming up against Andre Drummond too. But I kind of wanted to focus on the game sealing shot that Cade had, because it got to something that I had been kind of watching in that game and a little bit concerned about. And then all of a sudden, it all culminated in that play. So Cade Cunningham, he's got a double coming from Quentin Grimes up top. So he runs away from that double team, burns Kelly Oubre Jr. out of his shoes. He gets past the Tyrese Maxey, kind of like a token help, right? Maxey tries to step in and does a little reach. So Cade just does a little bit of kind of a maneuvering with the ball, get around that, spins away from Andre Drummond, and then actually looks off. I believe it was VJ Edgecombe. So looked him off to make him think that he might kick it out to the wing, out on now what was the strong side after that. Cade Cunningham beat 5 Philadelphia 76ers on his own on that one play to win the game. And what was ridiculous about that was later on, we find out, this was on Twitter, I can't remember the account that posted it, but Cade Cunningham set a record for a player being double teamed with 100 touches in a game. So players that had the ball as much as he did had never been double teamed as frequently as Cade was against the 76ers. And that is insane that he still put up the stat line that he did.
Yeah, I was actually going to bring that up too. I believe the account was All City NBA. So shout out to them for getting that data together. And what stood out to me from that data they collected was, Cade got doubled at a historic rate. But of that group, of those high percentages of players with that many touches that got doubled in a single game, Cade had the most points per possession by like a landslide. So that's super impressive with everything that Philadelphia was sending at him. And I mean, of course, we'll talk about the Wizards game in a bit, but even against Philly, it wasn't Cade's most efficient night from the field by any means. 9 for 20 from the field, 1 for 4 from 3. Still good at the line, 7 for 9, but still had 11 assists. He's getting up to those double-digit assist numbers, nearly night in and night out. So even when the shot's not falling, he's making things happen. And even on bad Cade Cunningham nights, he's still finding ways to like 25 points and 8, 9, or 10 assists, which is just incredible. A lot more to talk about with the Wizards game, but he was awesome, specifically in that Philly game with how difficult they made everything for him.
Oh, we're going to get to talking about what Cade Cunningham can do on an off night. I'll tell you guys that. Just hang on to your hats for that one. But you already brought up Jalen Duren. Let's give Jalen Duren the shout out there for that Philadelphia game, because I thought he was dominant in that game. It was really impressive to watch. I know he's had some really nice games. To me, that was one of the more impressive ones I think he's had in this young season. It was 21 points, 16 rebounds, and 4 stocks. He split those evenly between steals and blocks. Like, you felt Jalen Duren that game, and you've been feeling him for most of the season. He's obviously got the great chemistry going with Cade Cunningham. He's been a beast on the boards. But the kind of doing it poetically against Andre Drummond there in the 76ers with a group of guards there in Philly that do a really good job attacking the rim too. Like, he was put in some uncomfortable situations. I still thought, his screen stuff is iffy, but when things were coming towards him at the rim, I thought he was pretty engaged and did a really good job, as those 4 stocks would suggest. So, heck of a night from Jalen Duren. They obviously don't win that game without him, and those are really your 2 stars. I think it was Duncan Robinson also had a nice game, but if you're getting 26, 4, and 11 out of Cade and 21 and 16 with 4 stocks out of Duren, like, you're feeling pretty good about that night if you're Detroit, and it's just a great game out of those two.
Yeah, and what you said about Philly's guards specifically too, like, that's a really tough backcourt to keep up with Maxey and Edgecombe. And you saw a few times they were able to exploit the Pistons. Like, I think Duncan Robinson got caught on Maxey a few times in transition, and he was able to get by him pretty quickly. But just in general, like, Jalen Duren being impactful at the rim is what you need to see out of your starting center, who does everything that he does offensively. And I mean, Maxey still had 33 points, and Drummond had a nice game as well. He made 2 threes, which I'm not sure how often that happens. And that
apparently at least 2 other times, according to the podcast, which was hilarious. But it's just a total aside. Greg Kelser's playing the game with everybody. Hey, all right, Andre Drummond's hit 2 3-pointers in this game. How many other times in his career has he hit 2 or more? And I'm sitting on my couch like, it's 0. It's none. This is the first. That's ridiculous. I think he's only made 8 3-pointers in his career, 9 3-pointers in his career or something. And then sure enough, he's apparently, when he makes them, he makes another, because that's just what he's been doing. It was like 3 total times. So I was floored by that one. I would have lost that sheet or sham there from Gregory Kelser. There's a deep cut for you guys.
I wonder if those other 2 times were as a Piston, because I feel like
with like heaves, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. But yeah, like, for Philly, Embiid didn't play. Paul George is still out. Jared McCain is still working his way back from injury, but they were able to control Edgecombe, even Quentin Grimes, who played a ton of minutes off the bench, and Maxey still got his, but they were able to come out with an incredible win that looked like it might snap this winning streak that they have going. And they had a tough task for the next night ahead of them, traveling back home and playing a Wizards team that is going to need to do anything for a win. And they find a way to win another game with a ton of missing rotational players.
Yeah, Philly's a talented team, man. I mean, when/if they can get healthy. I know Embiid's kind of doing the back-to-back thing, so it's not like he's really hurt, but they're just monitoring and managing his minutes. But same thing with Paul George. If he can get healthy, that's a really talented squad. Health's obviously the question, but as long as Embiid is playing a decent number of games, I think even without Paul George, you get McCain back up and running. They've got a good team out there in Philadelphia. So I think it makes it even more impressive the way the Pistons were able to kind of gut that one out, missing the guys they were missing. Asar Thompson doesn't finish that game. They're obviously out Isaiah Stewart. You've still got Jaden Ivey hurt. Karis LeVert was huge in that game, turns around and misses the Wizards game. So, yeah, great. I think as YouTube user says, great team win there from the Pistons in Philly. But let's talk about what Cade Cunningham can do on a bad night from the floor. Cade Cunningham against the Wizards. And this isn't just him, all right, because the whole team, it was the third game in 4 days, I believe it was. It looked like it might have been the 9th game in 10 days. I don't know exactly what was going on, but everyone was moving through molasses. I don't think C.J. McCollum has looked quicker on a basketball court compared to the guys who were guarding him in years. C.J. McCollum, renaissance night for him, and as a big C.J. McCollum fan, I actually loved it. So I was happy that the Pistons got the win, and then McCollum had a nice night. But Cade Cunningham, on an off night, 46 points, 12 rebounds, 11 assists, 7 stocks, only 2 turnovers. He had 5 steals and 2 blocks and only 2 turnovers. He went 14 of 45 from the floor. So this is the thing that was hilarious to me with that stat line from Cade Cunningham. And we're going to give you some like real analysis of this here in a second, but was he incredibly inefficient? Oh yeah, terribly inefficient. Was he also somehow a point per minute guy? Yes, he was. He played 46 minutes and scored 46 points. That's just such a weird box score from Cade, man. That's hilarious.
Yeah, it was wild. And you could tell a lot of those misses and not trying to justify it, but he was just gassed and going a little bit longer out there than he probably should have, especially on a back-to-back. But being able to make some of the shots he did and get to the line 18 times and make 16 of those free throws, like to set a career high on a game that we are probably all going to say wasn't a great Cade Cunningham game, really just tells you how much of a game changer franchise player this guy is. He gets a triple double, whatever that stat was. He was the only 40-point triple double since like Michael Jordan did it with 5 steals back when he was playing still. So, I mean, if the Pistons don't win that game, find a way to win it in incredible fashion, maybe we're having a little bit of a different conversation there, but still like 46 points on a horrible night from the field and efficiency wise. I mean, it was just incredible. I think it was Sean Haddix in the chat mentioned it was one of the most frustrating games he's ever watched. And I agree with that. I mean, it wasn't pretty, but they found a way to win against a team that they should beat. So tip of the cap to Cade Cunningham and a ton of other guys that we'll definitely talk about soon here as well.
The Wizards were frustrating to watch because it was like going in a time machine back 2 years and watching the Pistons. Like everyone not named CJ McCollum did not want to win that game. And I say that a little bit in jest, but like McCollum had a heck of a night. And then you had a guy like Keontae George who had a good night in his own right, but throwing like a fast break off the dribble, one hand scoop lob straight out of bounds with 2 minutes left in like a 3-point game. You can't do stuff like this. So there's a lot of young mistakes there by that Wizards team, and that made it kind of frustrating, at least for me to watch for that. But look, here's the thing with Cade's stat line here, because I do think genuinely a lot gets lost in the focus on efficiency. And that's not to say that so much focus on efficiency is bad. He was clearly very inefficient against the Wizards on that night. But the Pistons don't win that game without Cade Cunningham. Could they have won by more if he were more efficient? Yes, absolutely. But these are the types of nights that we used to praise Kobe for it, right? Kobe would go out, he'd put up 40 shots, he'd only make 15 of them, but he'd have 30-some, 40 points, right? And he'd be the star of the game. And something with the mentality, right? The team needed him to do it. And, sometimes maybe the team even didn't need Kobe to do it specifically on some of those Shaq teams. But like later on, they did, right? Like if Powell's missing a game and Kobe's your only other option, like that's what he was going to do. And this was very much that type of night from Cade Cunningham. Like, yeah, he was tired. He played 46 minutes on the second night of a back-to-back on the last game in a 3-game and 4-day span. He was short as heck on so many shots, right? Looked dead. He was getting to his spots well. You could tell he was pushing through, but just he couldn't buy a bucket there for a while. But he's getting to the free throw line. He's making passes, a ton of assists, 11 assists. He's getting a ton of rebounds on a night where you're missing your primary backup center and your two rotation power forwards. Cade Cunningham stepping up and getting you 12 rebounds. Only 2 turnovers. He's smart with the ball. And then, obviously the 7 stocks is impactful on defense. He had a couple of really important defensive possessions late in the fourth quarter, again, on a night where you could see it. He's dead, right? He doesn't have any energy left, and he's still giving it all on the defensive end. Like, that's your star player. And again, of course, could they have won this in a blowout maybe if Cade goes 30 of 45? Yeah, for sure. But that wasn't how that was going to go. That's not how this went. How this went was he made the best of a really rough night shooting. And there's not a guy, all due respect to Dennis Jenkins, there's not a guy on that team that you would have rather been taking those 45 shots. So he had a Kobe night, and I think he deserves a little praise for it, even recognizing that it was, yes, inefficient.
Yeah, I think where the game lands is it's not going to go down as an all-time Cade game when it's all said and done or anything like that. But he just did what he had to do to find a way to help this team win. It clearly wasn't always falling for him, and he was still able to get 11 assists, make an impact defensively as well. But I mean, it really just is incredible that we're talking about him having an off game, maybe even a bad game, but he still set a career high, scored 46 points. And I think I saw someone posted that if he made all of his shots, which obviously isn't going to happen, he would have scored something like 119 points, which is just crazy to think about. But he had to take maybe not 45 shots, but he had to take a good amount of shots for the Pistons to be able to find a way to win that one on the second night of a back-to-back where they traveled in between. And yeah, it wasn't pretty for a lot of it, but he made some big buckets, got to the line when they needed him to, and was really good from the foul line as well. So it would be scary to see what that game might have been if he was even 40% from the field as opposed to 31 and made a couple more threes. So one of the wildest and maybe, like Sean said, most frustrating games that you'll see. It wasn't always fun to watch, but the end and the Dennis Jenkins shot and everything like that it was super fun.
Oh yeah, and I want to talk about Dennis Jenkins here in a second before we move on, but I think just to put a bow on the Cade thing, to me, these were 2 games in a row that is showing that superstar leap out of Cade Cunningham. What you saw in that Philadelphia 76ers game was in the second half, he did whatever he could to win that game, right? He found a way to win it. He was playing 1-on-5 largely with the way that they were defending him, and it didn't matter. He still found ways to put the ball in the basket. He still found ways to just kind of kill the 76ers if they sent too much help his way, right? He was making the right play almost 10 out of 10 times, and that was how he won that game. It was a different scenario there against the Wizards, and what Cade did was what you want your superstar to do, which is he did whatever it took to win. And apparently what that took today, or not today, but against the Wizards, was 45 shots. And I'm not debating okay, should he have taken 42 instead of 45? Where there's some bad shots in there. Probably, I don't think we need to get that granular in the analysis here. But the point is that did you really want Dennis Jenkins taking 30 shots? Duncan Robinson was in foul trouble. Did you want more out of Duncan? Who else? Duran, sure. Okay. Duran could have taken more shots. He had 19 and 14. He had a good night. Okay. Cool. So you got a good. Who else? Who else could have stepped up and done it? And Dennis Jenkins did what he needed to do as well. He was the hero of that night with the game timing shot, like you said. And he had a heck of a game, but they needed Cade to do that. Yeah, like YouTube user says, Bobby taking 15 shots is not a recipe for winning an NBA basketball game, even against a Wizards team that's really struggling. So yeah, it's weird to say it on such an inefficient night, but truly, to me, these are back-to-back games where Cade Cunningham willed his team to a win. And that's the type of stuff you talk about when you start getting into those conversations of, oh, this guy just, he knows how to win games, right? We were getting there with Kobe in the past. I think you could start having the same talks with Cade Cunningham. The guy knows how to win. He knows how to get his teammates around him, and he knows what he's got to do as well. He's willing to do it, and I love it. So
yeah,
I love it.
Just to set the record straight a little bit. I mean, a lot of accounts were posting about how he had just set the record for like the most missed shots in a game, and however long. Kobe had 30 misses in one of those games, so Cade does him one better with 31. But a few accounts pointing this out, but there was a guy, his name was Joe Folks, back in like the 40s and 50s, who actually had worse nights from the field. A few like smart accounts pointed that out, and obviously you don't want to be comparing the NBA of today to all the way back when the league was just starting out. And I got way too deep on that. Like, that guy was one of the pioneers of the jump shot. So I was like, okay, maybe he was just working out some kinks back in the day. But Joe Folks from the Philadelphia Warriors had a worse night from the field than Cade Cunningham, and I think a few times. So just so everyone knows, and you can lean on that a little bit if anyone tries to say that Cade had one of the worst offensive games or most missed shots or least efficient. That's something you can fall back on.
Man, Big Joe Folks, no one back in the day had seen a jump shot before, and he started taking them, and then he just it appears that he just had so much space up there on the floor that he's like, man, I can take this jump shot right here. There's no one guarding me 15 feet away from the rim. They don't know what this is, so it makes sense to me. He pioneers the jump shot, and no one's guarding him 15 feet away, so he's going to chuck it. Of course, he's not good at it, but he can do it. Oh my, that's hilarious. That it goes back that far. I love that. I want to read off other players that got 10 or more field goal attempts. Duncan Robinson, Jalen Duren, Javonte Green, and Dennis Jenkins. That's it. Those are the only guys that got into double digits. Ron Holland had a tough night there against the Wizards. We should mention that. But you got Paul Reed, 4 of 5. Good for him. Bobby Klintman, 1 of 4. Chaz Lanier, 3 of 7. Like, who did you want to take this volume away? Dennis Jenkins had 17 shots. 17. Who did you want to take that volume away? But let's talk about Dennis Jenkins. All right, so Dennis Jenkins, he puts up 24 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, 4 steals, and only 2 turnovers. He shoots 9 of 17, 4 of 6 from 3, one of them being the game-tying shot, and 2 of 2 from the line. And, as weird as it is to bring up single game plus/minus, +8, I've got to give it to him since it's all positive on Dennis Jenkins here. How about that? 34 minutes for Dennis.
Yeah, and I mean, when you're looking for someone to step up, and this is what Dennis Jenkins said himself in the post-game interviews on the broadcast, like, it's tough not seeing the court, but when you do have those opportunities, you got to take advantage of it. And he did that and then some. I thought the confidence on that last second shot, specifically when JB said that play was not drawn up for Dennis Jenkins, and the Jalen Duren screen gets like blown up a bit. He ends up on the floor, and Cade does a little no-look pass to a guy that's on a two-way that was an undrafted rookie last year, and he goes right up and finds a way to drain that shot. And overtime was super close. The Wizards definitely could have pulled that out. But that Dennis Jenkins shot, like, just seeing how dejected Cam Whitmore was walking back to the bench after that shot. The Pistons had all the momentum Clearly they would have, because they had that crazy comeback to even force overtime. But it just seemed like that took all the steam out of the Wizards, and credit to CJ McCollum and the team in general for like, they had a chance to win in overtime as well. But I mean, just incredible performance from a guy who's literally on a two-way contract. We've talked about in the past, could a final roster spot be available for him? Could he get a standard NBA deal eventually? I mean, if he takes advantage of these opportunities like that, clearly that will be on the table, and he could be a real rotation guy. And in a similar vein, you brought up Chaz Lanier, who knocks down 2 threes, and he contributes off the bench as well. And we've been clamoring for some of those second round picks, or in Jenkins's case, undrafted free agents, to work and just be able to contribute to this rotation. Jenkins and even Lanier last night did that and then some. So hopefully they can build on that. I mean, the minutes won't always be there for those guys, but if they can take advantage when the opportunity presents itself, they could force JB's hand into finding a way to give Dennis Jenkins some more minutes, because he's just like a good little player. I don't know another way to describe it. And was really good in college too, and is just looking for those opportunities. And man, 24 points when he only got to the line 2 times is pretty impressive.
I mean, kind of a magical night for Jenkins, hitting the game tying 3 on a night where he's going nuts on kind of a random November evening with a bunch of injury issues. Like, that's the stuff that you dream about as a kid in the backyard, which is so cool. But I'm with you. I think they've got something here in this guy, Dennis Jenkins. He's been solid at every single level through the Pistons process, right? He obviously had a great college career, but he goes into summer league, plays pretty well, goes to the G League, plays even better, really takes off down the final stretch of last year, comes into summer league and translates all of that, looks exactly the way that he did for the Crews to end that previous season that he does then for the summer league. He has a nice preseason this year, right? He looks really good in the preseason and kind of goes through that learning curve of, I know I'm not officially on the roster. I'm a two-way. Should I really be taking this shot? And the answer is yes, right? Yes, you should be taking the shot. That was that Cavs game where he kind of goes off in the second half after Kate sits out for a little bit. So you've just seen this progression out of him. He's moving in the right direction at every single step. And then, I mean, he's gotten a couple other minutes earlier this season too before this, and I thought he's looked more or less solid. And now he's got a big breakout game like this, and it's exactly what you would hope, right, out of this profile player, because he's a good athlete. He's got a good handle on it, on the ball as well, and he's a good shooter. So you're looking at a player. Well, what did he do? He should be a 3-and-D player. Well, he goes 4 or 6 from 3. Check. That's right. That's exactly what you want to see. 4 steals. That's perfect. 3 assists. Good playmaker. That's perfect, right? And you get 8 rebounds to add on to that as well. So he's playing his butt off. He's hustling really well too. So I really think this is a guy that you have to keep. I don't know how they do it. I don't know if they're going to need to waive somebody. I don't know if there's going to need to be a trade made. I think he's only got 39 games left of eligibility on that 2-way deal. And Dennis Jenkins is going to force their hand, because you're right. He's a good player. He's looked like a good player every opportunity he's gotten. And if you could have a guy like him that you kind of found and molded and you could keep around for, 6, 7, 8 years as that de facto backup point guard in Detroit, and kind of a low to mid-minute role off the bench as your 8th or 9th guy, what a luxury. So I love it. You're right. This is the type of guy we've been clamoring for, and he's that dude. I think he's that guy. I think you can bank on him being rotation in the future, just with the way he keeps progressing.
Yeah, and Chuck Brewer brings it up here. Does Jenkins make Sasser expendable? I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily makes Sasser totally expendable, because we haven't seen him and everything like that. But if Jenkins earns more minutes, like it probably will come at the expense of Sasser, and maybe it comes to a point where the Pistons can't roster a third guard, so maybe they do have to choose between those two players. And if Jenkins keeps doing what he's doing, I mean, it would be hard to not pick that guy. And there just is hitting a late second round pick or an undrafted free agent is just such a game changer in the league. Like I'm thinking of Keon Ellis with the Kings, who was undrafted a few years ago. And he's been, I mean, the franchise isn't in a good spot, but he's been a good player for them. And him and Dennis Jenkins aren't the same player by any means. But if you can have a guy like that that's contributing to your rotation on a cheap deal, especially if we don't know when Jaden Ivey is going to be back, and there could be a little bit missing in the guard room and just ball handler wise. And if Jenkins can do that and also play a little defense as well, that kind of solves your problem right there. Doesn't make everything perfect, but he was incredible. He deserves all the flowers that he's going to get after that game. And I hope it leads to some more minutes for him. It might be hard to find those eventually, but he's definitely at least earned it in the interim, especially while the Pistons have an injury report as long as it currently is right now.
Yeah, I definitely want to see more Dennis Jenkins. And it's so nice too. I have to say, to be at this spot now with the roster, where the roster is so talented, we can kind of say things like I'm about to say and not get called ridiculous. But Dennis Jenkins is just, there's something about the way that guy plays that is just Pistons. Like it's the backup point guard that comes out and just dogs you defensively, and is actually really skilled and a good athlete and can do a lot offensively as well. And he's kind of coming out in short bursts, and it's just full sprint, go, and then he's going to sit back down. That's not what happened there against the Wizards, but you can imagine it, right? Like if Dennis Jenkins is getting 13, 14 minutes a night, and he goes out for two or three stretches when Cade sits, and it's just, it's the presses, it's the pressure on the ball handler, it's the fast break. It just fits. There's something about that that's so Detroit Pistons, out of the backup point guard spot. And we can say this about a lot of guys on the roster too. Like Isaiah Stewart's the most obvious one. There's something about that guy that's just Detroit Pistons basketball. It makes sense. Well, I think Dennis Jenkins fits that mold. He gives me that vibe. And now that the roster's so talented on the top end, you can afford to make calls like this, where you find kind of a diamond in the rough there, and it just fits the mold of what your organization is and is trying to be. And you just shift things around there at spots 13, 14, 15 to make it work so that you could keep this guy that just feels like a Piston. And they can do that now, and that's what I want them to do. So yeah, give me some solid Dennis Jenkins minutes here the rest of the way. It doesn't have to be a lot, but let's just have him be the 10th man. I think I'm ready to call it. He's earned it. I don't know how else you could deny it from him. He's earned it.
And credit to the front office for bringing him in, because in that draft class, I think Jenkins was one of the top undrafted free agents available. And I obviously don't know for certain, but I'd be willing to bet that he fielded a decent amount of calls. And I don't know what the front office said to him or promised him, or if he had good conversations during his workouts, but they definitely deserve some credit for bringing in Jenkins, because I'm sure he could have went elsewhere, and he came in when the team was coming off a 14-win season. So I don't know if it was the best situation, but they either said something or did something right to make him want to come here, because you can choose at that point. And maybe he was even getting looks toward the end of the second round, and he wanted to hold out for a undrafted contract, kind of like Austin Reeves did when the Pistons wanted to draft him. So just shout out to the front office for that as well, mainly. And especially when, like I said, we've been wanting some of these second round picks, or just later on undrafted guys in Jenkins's case to work out. And hopefully it stays like this for the long haul, because I like watching him play a lot.
I do really think that Langdon deserves a little bit of credit here these past 2 years for what he's done kind of on the margin of the roster. Like Jenkins, that's the obvious one, but I think Tolu Smith is another really good and interesting two-way guy for the Pistons as a long-term development project. But I mean, you mentioned it. Chaz Lanier had solid minutes there against the Wizards, played 27, and he was good. Like I thought I liked his effort on defense. 2 of 5 from 3, so could have been a little bit better there, but that's more or less what you're looking at him. And he's a rookie, right? Second round rookie. He was able to have that kind of night. We've talked at length about the impact Paul Reed can make. Did it again. 8 points, 9 rebounds, 2 stocks, 4 or 5 from the floor. Paul Reed had a heck of a night again against the Wizards. Javonte Green, when he was signed, we had Anthony from Pistons Talk on the podcast. We were all joking about how impactful Javonte Green would be, thinking he's just going to be, the 14th guy on the roster, only injury fill. He's been great this year in low minutes for the Pistons. Not only just as an injury fill-in, he was on the rotation night number 1, right? Like he's been solid since the start. So Langdon's making these choices, these pickups here, kind of at the end of the roster. You'd say these are positions like 9 through now 15, right? And he's got a pretty solid hit rate on these guys. It is really impressive, and something that, again, we've looked around the league. I'm sure everyone listening as fans, you can relate to this. We've looked around the league. We've seen teams that do this, and now the Pistons are one of them, right? And it's pretty awesome, pretty exciting.
Yeah, 100%. I think Langdon has done a great job and deserves a ton of credit here, especially around the margins. And that Javonte Green dunk that put the Pistons up 3 in overtime, incredible.
Can I just say that dunk cracked me up, because you could see when Duren gets the rebound, like he does a double take because Green's so wide open on the backdoor cut. Like you can see Duren like hesitate for a second, like this can't be. It can't be that easy, can it? And it is. So he just makes the easy little bounce pass. It's a great read, great assist. And Javonte Green almost hits the rim with his head on that dunk. Like that's a hilarious play, just to see the realization in Duren's eyes. Like there are 4 people next to me and no one near this guy. Okay, sure.
Yeah, I mean, impressive from Green too, when he misses that 3 and makes that cut, and great pass from Jalen Duren. That was really, I mean, a Monday night home crowd that, I mean, the building probably wasn't as full as it always is, but that really got it, that shot the roof off the place. And not like Dennis Jenkins's 3 didn't a few minutes earlier, but that was just an incredible play by Duren, by Green, and really the Wizards had a last-second attempt to be able to tie the game, and Paul Reed misses those free throws and everything. But that was just it ended up sealing the game. It might have not worked out that way, but it was just such an electrifying play, and that's one of the highlights, like that, the Jenkins shot, and then Cade's dunk against Philly. I feel like we're going to watch over and over again throughout the rest of the season.
That's just a roller coaster of Paul Reed, man, because he misses those 2 free throws, and then you know what? Makes a heck of a defensive play on CJ McCollum to make sure that shot didn't go in at the buzzer. Like he gave them a chance and he took it away. That's the Green, Paul Reed experience.
Green tips that ball on defense.
Oh man,
that too. So yeah,
that's his second block of a 3-pointer like that too. I think against the Wizards, he was really impactful. Might have been against Philly. Either way, he had 2 during this back-to-back. Both were really important.
Yeah, and credit to Paul Reed, because he did. I think he posted on Twitter he was going to shoot 1,000 free throws today. So hope that went well.
Oh, I'm sure it did. All right, let's. We got kind of a fun question from a fella that we wanted to get to in voicemail before, if we have time. looking ahead at the week to come. So here is our guy, Afella.
What's going on, y'all? This is Afella from the DBB Comments. Question for you. We are seeing Jalen Duren go crazy over the last few games. We also have not seen Jaden Ivey yet, so anything is possible. Which would you rather have? A fully realized Jalen Duren or a fully realized Jaden Ivey as Cade's partner in crime? Let me know. Can't wait to hear from you.
All right, so Ivy or Duren, and now let's just, for the fun of this, all right, because Duren's playing so well, Ivy hasn't even gotten on the court, right? So let's just do this as like a pure hypothetical archetype of player. If you could take what we've seen out of Duren so far and just take it to like 100% of the outcome, right? And then you could do the same for Ivy. So like what we saw last year projected out 100% into the future here. Who would you rather have? I thought this was an interesting question.
Yeah, it's a tough question, especially when you loop in the fact of how well Duren has been playing. Like, my quick question is, how close of this version of Jalen Duren through 11 games? I mean, he's been good defensively, but maybe he can take some steps there. But is this almost as close to a realized Jalen Duren? I mean, he's putting up 19.4 points a game and 12 rebounds. Like, that's pretty incredible. And if he can get those numbers up a bit, like, that's even better. But I feel like that's almost what you want out of him. We don't think that he's ever gonna develop into a 3-point shooter by any means, but maybe he gets a little bit better from the mid-range. He's been an improved free throw shooter this year, shooting over 80% from the line. So I feel like it is recency bias a little bit, but I will go with Jalen Duren just because we've seen how much Cade Cunningham thrives with a pick and roll partner, a lob threat like Duren. And I'm not saying that due to that, Ivy is necessarily written off or expendable, because I mean, if Jalen Duren's averaging 20 points a game, like, that helps you answer a lot of questions as a team. But I think you could still go and get a secondary scorer, a guy that's going to shoot a little bit and create for his own next to Cade, whether that's Jaden Ivey or someone else that you get in free agency or on the trade market. But I mean, Jalen Duren's one of the most athletic centers in the league, and we've definitely been harder than most, I'd say, about his like defense in the past. And we've definitely seen a real improvement this year, and he's taking an incredible step offensively, and he was already a good offensive player. So I think Jalen Duren has more potential to be like a harder player to come across, I guess, is why I would go with him here. But it is a tough question overall. And even if this is the fully realized version of Jalen Duren, or he gets a little bit better as a defender, even though he's already improved, or he helps his he gets a little bit better from further away from the basket, whatever that looks like. I mean, I think you're looking at one of the best centers of the league, as long as he can keep it up defensively.
What's so fun about this is that it really is a two-man pairing. Like, we're throwing away the context of the team, and we're just looking at two guys, Duren or Ivy with Cade. And so I think, like, look, I don't think Duren's where he's at, where he's going to be. If you're trying to take what we've seen so far to the like 100% outcome, then look, he's going to clear up these turnovers a little bit more, right? He had a kind of a tough night with that against the Wizards with 5 turnovers, led the team on that. He's going to get more consistent with his defense. I agree, he's taken a step. He's being more impactful, but only having, I think, a couple of steals against the Wizards, no block. Like, we need more of that. So if we could be neutral consistently, because I think on some nights he is, on some nights he's not, right? So he kind of nets out to below average still, but much better than he was. If you could get that out to just purely neutral, and you add in the little bit of ball handling stuff that he's been flashing, if we could actually get that as bankable, right? Like if on a night like against the Wizards, where he takes 11 shots, or he takes 10 shots, he makes 6 of them, but majority of these were not self-created. If you could add like 5 kind of self-created looks out of him and it's successful, right? Maybe he's like 2 or 3 out of 5 on those, the kind of thing that he did against Andre Drummond, where he just kind of from the top of the key, ISO'd, got around him all the way to the rim with a nice little touch finish, right? If that kind of stuff becomes bankable, you're looking at like offensively Bam Adebayo from a couple of years ago. You're looking at like I forget who brought this up to me before, but like Amari Stoudemire is a great one. That's a great comparison offensively. But the core is it's a guy that is a great lob threat, pick and roll threat with Cade, who can do a bunch of other stuff offensively and is not a negative defensively. So I think I'm with you, right? If you could just take these 100% of the way into their future outcome, Duren could be a lot more rare, a little bit more unique than Jaden Ivey being a scoring guard. And that's nothing against Jaden Ivey. I think Jaden Ivey's upside is still looking at someone who's like, 23 points per game, 5 rebounds, 5 assists on great efficiency. And again, you're hoping he's a neutral defender because he's such a great athlete. So like that's really impactful too. But if you've got a player who's 22 and 12 on great efficiency and he can do a little bit with the ball in his hands and he's not a bad defender, he's a neutral defender, and he's this incredible lob threat too, right? And he can make plays for others. I think that's a little bit more unique, like you said. So I would go I would go Cade and Duren as like that pairing if I had to choose. And of course, what's interesting is you say all of this, and then you go, all right, well, the 76ers were able to double Cade Cunningham at a record rate. Why were they able to do that? Because you had a star and Duren out there for so often. And the Nick Nurse was just begging anyone else on Detroit to beat them. And they didn't. Cade found a way to beat them anyway, which is awesome and impressive for Cade. It's also a little bit concerning, right, that this other team was able to do that at such a high level. So when you factor in the rest of the roster, it becomes a more difficult question to me. But I think in a vacuum, if you're telling me that you could get the perfect lob threat partner for Cade offensively to take that pressure off, and he can do a little bit of stuff on his own and create some plays for others on his own, that's the guy that's a better fit one-to-one.
Yeah, and I mean, we've seen it across the league with Luka in Dallas, and even since he was traded to the Lakers, what they did to try and put together a solid front court to him. But I mean, Derek Lively was so much better playing with Luka Doncic than what he currently has right now. And obviously they're missing Kyrie, but the elite superstar guards like that, they benefit from having that pick and roll partner, that lob threat. And on the other hand, that center benefits from playing with a guy like that. So I think they're just more complementary in general. And obviously you go back to when Ivy was drafted, the questions on if him and Cade can play together and all that stuff, which I think we've seen that they definitely can. But if it's one or the other reaching the maximum potential, I think you have to go Duren just based off how him and Cade work together. But that said, Ivy would still be super important to this group, and they still need. I mean, I don't think you want Jalen Duren to necessarily be your number 2 scorer for the next 5 to 10 years or however long it is. But if he can keep doing what he's doing, that only helps. Then go and get another bucket getter, or if it's Jaden Ivey, it's Jaden Ivey. And then that would just help eliminate some of those spacing concerns that you innately get when Asar and Duren are out there together.
Frankly, here's where I'm at. I'm right with a YouTube user. So he says, I think Duren's defensive impact or defensive improvement this year and at the end of last year is a little overstated, but his offensive impact and improvement is huge. That's exactly where I'm at. I think the defense is a little bit just a little bit exaggerated right now because of how far it has come. Like it was so low And then now the fact that we're approaching neutral is a massive leap. So like I don't want to take away that. I don't want to take away credit for that. I'm not ready to say he's a neutral or a good defender yet. Right? That's not where it is. Offensively, though, this has been ridiculous. All right, he's almost at 65% from the floor, and he's still averaging almost 20 points a night and like 12 rebounds. And he's doing it on a few assists a game too. Like this is, you say maybe this isn't the guy that could be your second scoring option. I am convinced there's a world where it could be. Like you could be looking at like a young Blake Griffin sort of scenario in LA, right? Like before he's shooting all the threes, before he's doing all this stuff off the bounce. There's just enough skill there to keep defenders off guard, and he makes some plays for others. But like the core of what that guy is, high flyer who can do other stuff. And that's kind of what Duren's looking like right now to me, a high flyer who can do other stuff. So that's just, does this work? Can you make it work with the star Thompson? I'm not ready to have that conversation yet. But the offensive improvement we have seen out of JD this season, in particular, like the leap he took from last year even to now, insane to me. This has been completely unexpected, completely ridiculous. And I don't see anything that's not bankable, right? It's not like he's doing anything unusual. He's just really scaled up in a way that I didn't think any of us really thought that he could, or at least I didn't think that he could. So, yeah, man, holy cow. Impressive stuff out of Duren, and I don't think he's at his ceiling either. So, really fun question here from a fella. This is fun. I think we're fully past the like, oh, it's just Andre Drummond again. No. This is completely different offensively.
Yep. Yeah, and he's just been dominant, which on the offensive end, which has been huge over this 7-game winning streak. And just quickly, like looking at it, Cade Cunningham has led this team in scoring every night except for one, when Jalen Duren scored 33 points in against Dallas in Mexico City. So he's just been incredible. We mentioned his like 20-point double-double streak that he had going. And yeah, just everything he does offensively. I think we didn't expect it to be at this level, like you said, but you knew how big an impact he can be on the offensive end. And it's just about keeping it afloat defensively. And yeah, he's been impactful at times. Other times we could maybe look for a little bit more, but I think overall, I mean, I'm not really sure a better center out there right now that you'd want playing alongside Cade Cunningham, especially with how their timelines line up and everything. And Cade's already locked down. Like maybe you can lock Duren down for the future too.
Is the last thing I'm going to say on this one is, look, I've been one of the larger critics, I guess, on the defensive side of the ball over the past couple of years for Duren in particular. But here's the thing. To me, I think we're approaching a point where you can say pretty confidently what he is giving you offensively is worth figuring out the defensive side of the ball. Yeah. Like, okay, if he's close to being a neutral defender, if he can get to neutral, and neutral means that on most nights he's just not a negative out there, right? He's not adding anything, but he's not a negative. And so you know what? He's going to struggle against stretch bigs. That's probably just going to – this is probably baked into the cake right now. Nikola Vucevic, going to give him a tough time. That's just kind of what it is. But what he's giving you on the other end is worth that. It outweighs that. It's the same kind of conversation you have with a lot of guards where they're giving you so much offensively and you say, okay, they're a bad defender. I need to figure out a way to construct this roster around that so that, this could actually – be okay. He's getting really close offensively to me, just definitively saying, yeah, absolutely. You're willing to live with the defensive issues out of JD. Like some of the chats bringing up like Derek Lively. That's a good name. He's better. I think he's a much better talent than Lively is. He looks better with Cade than Lively ever looked with Luka. I think that's not the difference necessarily between Cade and Luka. That doesn't mean that Cade's better than Luka. I think that means that just JD's better than Lively is, right? Like I think you could start doing this across the league. So again, you got to set the spacing aside for that. This is where it gets tough because you say you need, okay, if we're going to be in this situation, then we need defenders who can shoot. We need Cade, we need JD, and then we need a lot of 3-and-D wings. And maybe you could get something along those lines in like a third scoring option in a Ron Holland if he keeps progressing as a shooter, but that's very much immaterial right now. That's theoretical. We don't know. We know Asar's not going to be a shooter, so does that fit? Like Ivy's not a great defender. Does that fit? This all becomes really tough when you start to move outside of that little vacuum. But I think that it's worthwhile, at least for now, to have that conversation of, yeah, man, in that vacuum right now, if you're just looking to a player, the improvement that he has made this year is unbelievable. And it's unbelievable. It's so important as a teammate next to Cade. So you can't not be impressed with what we've seen out of him, and I think you can bank on it in the future, and it's really exciting.
Right, and we're not gonna go into all the outside factors of it like you brought up, but when you add in the Asar Thompson of it and everything he brings as a defender, and you're looking for a little bit more offensively, like maybe that ends up just offsetting itself. And obviously you don't want your starting five to be a negative defender, but it's almost just the exact opposite. Like Jalen Duren, you know everything he does offensively. He's been better as a defender. You still want it to take another step, and you can say the same thing about Asar Thompson when you flip-flop it around. The fact that neither of them shoot threes makes that a little bit tough, but hopefully it does make the conversation of like Duren's offense outweighing his defense at least a little bit easier.
Yeah, for sure. And like, just to summarize for a second, the whole thing with the two shooters is the Pistons are really talented right now, so they're making it work. It hasn't been a huge issue, but it's been an issue. So it's a little bit, I've likened it before to like, a really talented boxer tying one hand behind their back and still winning the fight. It's super impressive, but it's a lot more difficult than it needed to be, right? Like, yeah, they still won, and yeah, that goes to their greatness and to their talent. But at the same time, like, take the hand out from behind your back. Just, it's that sort of deal in the NBA. Like, if you can't have 5 shooters out there, then you got to have 4. Otherwise, you're just kind of playing with one hand behind your back. You're making it a little more difficult than it needs to be. And that kind of stuff pops up when you get into the playoffs. So, it's a problem for another day. Right now, I think you can just be really excited about what we've seen out of Jalen Duren and that comparison there that a fella had us do. I think that just goes to that. So, Blake, you got any final words before we wrap it up?
No, I mean, that's really it. I mean, I think it's just an exciting time to be a Pistons fan in general. I know it's only 11 games into the season, but tough game against Chicago tomorrow as we're recording on Tuesday, just with the long injury report they have. And then you got Philly again in an NBA Cup game on Friday. So I hope
I'm sure Embiid's going to play in, by the way. So that'll be interesting.
So I hope they can keep things going. I mean, it'll be tough to keep this going throughout the whole season, but they've already surprised me a ton. So I'm looking forward to what's to come.
Yeah, me too. I think that that Sixers game I'm really looking forward to. I know I'm in the minority, but I love the NBA Cup stuff. Give me all the gimmicks, like anything to give me more basketball and make it seem more dramatic somehow, even though I know it's not. I don't care. Just I love watching. It's fun. So I'm really looking forward to that one. That should be a good game.
Yeah, 100%. So looking forward to that too. And yeah, YouTube user brought up the contracts of everyone, which we didn't dive into that today. But
outside factors,
that's definitely a big factor to the whole Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren, and then we can go down with Ron Holland and Asar Thompson too. But we'll save that for next time. And shout out to everyone for joining. Shout out to a fella for using the voice line again. Reminder, anyone can call that number to ask a question, hear your voice on the show. The number for that is 313-355-2717. And special thanks to Sean Corp, the managing editor of Detroit Bad Boys, for supporting the show. And shout out to you guys for all the great questions and talking points tonight. We'll catch you next week, whether on your commute or live with us on YouTube. We can't wait to talk more Detroit basketball with you all.